All right. Give this a few moments to catch up. Hopefully, if you're out there, let me know if we've got good sound. It's been a while since I've done a live streaming. Let's see, we do have some folks. And I just did an author talk here in Providence. I'm like, well, I'm here. Yay. Hello, Garrett. So I figured while I'm here, while we have time. Hello, Kim, Moon Whisper. So let's give folks a moment to check in here. And I have been overall been pretty much in the state. If you are here in the United States, you are probably in a particular type of state. And for our friends who are watching in other places, understand, yes, we're very much in a state. Hello, Jolie. Hello, Mel. Thank you for joining in today. So I felt like, since I'm on camera ready, that's super important, but like, put lipstick on. It should be a reason for that, right? I want to touch base talking about magical resistance, resilience, ideas, concepts, effective action. If you've been paying attention to any of my social media accounts, I have been posting about different types of work. And hello, Candace. And I just want to dive a little bit deeper, because there are things I can write, and then there are things I can say that or perhaps understand a little bit better as they're coming from me. And this has been. I think a lot of us are like, really, fuck, are we here again? We're here again, right? But for those of us who've been watching and paying attention, like, we've been saying this is what's coming, and whether we like it or not, we're still here, and we're allowed to have the response of fuck. And that brings a whole bunch of different emotions. And I'd like to talk today about the different emotions and feelings, and how do we cope, work with those, and also do action, and do a bunch of different action. And if you aren't super familiar with my work, I have been doing magical resistance work since at least 2016. So this has been going on for 8 years now. And so as I mentioned today in the author talk, this is work that I would really wish would become obsolete. and that we get to a point in humanity and culture and society, we're like, isn't that cute that they had to deal with these issues that we don't have to deal with anymore, right? But I also understand humans are human, and they're going to do this. We see this repeat in history again and again. The bonus, at least, of history is we do see, as the pendulum swings, hopefully sanity and order, and better for a lot of stuff. So here are the words are hopefully coming. But I was thinking about that, the saying of those who fail to remember or to learn their history are doomed to repeat it. And at the same time, I think, and those of us who learned our history and been talking about it are sitting here like Cassandra going like, God damn it, we've seen this before. Will you just pay attention to what's going on? I am, being from the Philadelphia area, I am a big fan of generally the fuck around and find out philosophy. But when it's on a scale where everybody gets to experience that, it's shit. So, by the way, it's going to be a lot of cursing in this. That's where we're going to go, right? Yes, and Nova mentions in here, when history is written and taught by the victors as well, right? So we are seeing a lot in a very short amount of time, which again isn't surprising for folks who've been paying attention. But so going back to magical resistance work, which you've probably seen in the New Aradia and the Gorgon's Guide. And recently we had the Serpents of Circe, Magical to Magical Resilience. These two are about magical resistance. As I said, when we talked about the release of this book, is when I got the message for resilience, I was like, I would like to think that it's a how we build community in a better space moving forward instead of the other side of the dark looming abyss. Here we are at the dark looming abyss. Isn't that great? Yes, one of you. The way I could scream into the void. It's wonderful. So, right, that's where we are. Uh, and it's fascinating for me to see the different levels and waves of folks who are tapping into this. And as I've said repeatedly, you don't really care when you come aboard, as long as you come aboard and realize that you have a capacity to work change. And really need to underline that the work that we're doing, when I talk about magical resistance and magical resilience, it is not in its own void. It is not something like, I'm just going to light some candles and that's it. We are talking about work that is paired with definitive action at whatever level you are capable of, that is available and accessible to you in your local community and all the way up, right? I don't want to say that this is real work, because anytime anybody uses the word real, it tends to automatically default to, well, now, this is the only way to do it. But I want to talk about a particular concept that's been in the last few different blog posts and things I'm talking about in sigils and such, is we need to be the cool, I don't want to say calm, but it's going to be the level-headed magical practitioners in what's going on now. As when the election first happened, I watched as countless posts about goddesses of rage and all of this. I'm going to hex this. I'm going to hex that. All of that. And I understand that that's part of the process. It's part of the grieving process to want to be angry, to want to set everything on fire. And on some level, I definitely do not disagree. There are some things that need to be set on fire. But we also need to be focused. We need to consider where is our work most effective and what's going on. So what does that mean in all of this? Yesterday, I believe it was, maybe Friday, again, I have no concept of time, I re-released the 2020 Freedom Sigil, which essentially has a giant arrow root into the earth. It looks like an axe. It looks like a scythe. It has that focus. It has an eye on it. And I hesitated about re-releasing the sigil. I mean, it's always there, but getting another wave of folks using it is, I thought about as we used it in the space between 2019 and 2020, and a lot of the effects that happened in 2020 were absolutely earth-shaking, life-changing for many people, life-ending for a lot of people. And yet, in the end, some things filter through that work to a better solution. But it's important in releasing magic work and putting things out there and understanding what is your state in working this way. The same way doing anything, right? If you're doing the dishes angry, you're likely going to break dishes, right? You want to get the job done. If you're working out angry, you're most likely to hurt yourself. If and I'm not saying anger is a bad thing, because anger is very much a very important and very powerful and very potent thing. But it's how do you keep that in a level of containment so that it is focused instead of setting things on fire. I'm going to highlight. So Amanda says, thank you, sir. We need substantial action with the magical practice. So many online groups I bet are about magical work as the end all be all. Yes. That's why I released. I have people like, so what magic are we doing now? What spells are we doing now? The ones we've been doing. Right? Which again sounds more like, why aren't you on board for all this? It is important to realize that the magical work that we're doing is for bolstering our work. It is not the it's not the only thing, but it's something that we use as an active amplifier to what's going on. Now, going back to the freedom. I'm just doubling everywhere. The 2020 Freedom Sigil. So part of the thing I wrote about in the Welcome to Magical Resistance, Raise Your Lantern and Your Snakes, is in studying the effects and energies of things, Yes, smell, control, burn. And looking at the effects and energies of all the various work. I know there's the work that I've put out, there's work that other people have put out, and each of them have their place and their time. But we have to consider what has been most effective in the work that we're doing. What are we up against? And it's been said enough times that there are opposing forces at work, right? Which in any situation, there's always opposing forces. When you have teams, if you have ideologies, we have these things. There's always going to be pro and against. Right? And this is why I feel like it is so important to work at the root level. If you are distressed about what's going on, I want you to think about, like, turn to your local community. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your witchy community. Right? You might be living somewhere where you don't have, or you don't immediately see a lot of allies, a lot of folks who might think like you, but there are spaces that kind of cross over into that. So folks who are concerned about taking care of the needs of their community, whether that is housing folks, that is protecting immigrants, if that is feeding the hungry, you know, protecting trans lives, all of those things, right? There's a common goal in that, and that's where we first need is a grouping together of the folks who are, we're all on the same page, rather than the perfect and the purified. That's not what this is about. But you will find the allies and folks in your local community who are passionate about similar causes, and it doesn't have to be a witchy group. Great if it is, but don't be afraid to kind of poke your head, whether it's a book club, whether it's a dance class, where you might find that sort of thing. So again, don't automatically go for I must find a magical solution to this. Find the mundane, find out what's going in your local school board, your local government. These things are really, really important. So let's consider that. Nova says, many oppressed and abused people are conditioned that anger is shameful. I have a hard time expressing anger healthily because of that. Yes. There's so much to be considered in shame and anger. But we also, in a marginalized community, right? Which, face it, right? If you're in the magical community, if you're into witchcraft, druidry, paganism, whatever it is, you are in a marginalized community. And I understand that many of you, including myself, also cross over into other marginalized groups, whether it be the color of your skin, who you love, if you're neurodivergent, all of those things, just kind of amping up the combination of that. So recognize that aspect of things. But how do we focus it in? How do we use it? How do we use it for good? How do we harness it? Because anger is energy. Joy is energy. That's why joy is a powerful thing. Joy is a buoyant force. Sadness is a type of energy. Every emotion that we feel has a potential to tap into it. It's something that it can lift us up, it can drive us forward, or it can pull us back. You can even say, be like, well, it's only the good versus the bad. I can think of situations where people have been in such a state of bliss and happy that they have really not progressed in any sort of way, right? So they decided not to do anything because they were in a place of comfort. So that's something to be considered. Now, going back to that, I keep on being like, I want to address all your comments and get focused on this. With the freedom sigil, if you're going to use it, I highly recommend you use it to focus on, as I said, aim for the ankles. Think local, think what you can directly be attached to. And the thing is, it's not, people get really caught up into cursing. This is cursing, is this hexing, is this that? Like, if you've read my books, you know that even healing work can be something that does damage, right? So this is not about doing damage, not doing damage. This is about clearing a path, clearing the way. And in addition to calling your representatives, emailing representatives, being present in whatever way you can, being active, being educated to a point where at least you're not going nuts, right, over it, that you are engaged enough, right? If you see this as precision, if you see it as a surgical tool to help remove and clear those obstacles, that's what you want to dive into, right? It's not necessarily about hurting people. Uh, that is a real side effect of any kind of work. That people can be emotionally hurt, disturbed, all of the different consequences that can happen in any kind of working. But we need to think about removing the blocks that are there for things to clear through. We need to think about if you are clearing a path for things to flow, right? So it's a matter of finding the metaphor that works for you and applying it in that type of way, in addition to the other work that you're doing. So while, again, I understand wanting to be like, I want you to breathe, focused, precise, surgical, looking into the work that says, I'm clearing the path through this. I'm cutting through the illusion. I'm cutting through the Maya for that clarity, that insight, that other people will have the veil lifted from their eyes, that clarity comes in, that information is known and acted upon. All of those things, that is the kind of work I think we need, at least on a magical level. And I would also, if you're going to take a page from the book that's trying to protect, that's taking, I'm bouncing around on this, talking about our two teams there. If I, as I've mentioned before in my writings, that if I was going to design something that I knew was going to upset a lot of people and I wanted to protect something, I would design it in such a way that it would take that anger and misplaced anxiety, etc., and feed off of it. This is perhaps why I have a last name that would work for an evil villain. I don't know. Right? But from a tactical perspective, that's what I would do. And I really believe that's what we're working with right now, is trying to stir up the most amount of distress and chaos, trying to get people to disengage and to just give up hope. Uh, that sort of egregore, for lack of a better word, that type of engine or machine that feeds on that. So if we don't feed into it, right, in a direct way, just kind of bouncing it back because that's what it wants, right? Then we're able to go below the curtain, go underneath the curtain, again, aim for the angles, and start to get that work undone at that level, to cut it off at its feet, as well as building up our community. So this is a twofold. There's the clear the path, and why not take a page from that book of protecting the folks that we know, not only the most vulnerable people in our community that need protection. That's what the power sigils for. That's a very other sigils, right? We have protection, shields up, but we should also have that lending of energy and focus to those who are most clearly in a position to do the work. Um, you know, leading for, I'm not going to mention names in this particular video, but I know you probably have a few ideas of people who you're seeing in government, right, or in your local community, who are challenging, who are doing the work, who need protection, who need that amplification. So that is work that you can be doing too. If you don't feel comfortable doing clear cut surgery, why not bolster the folks that you can see are doing the work? At your, not saying you're not doing work on yourself and your local community, but why not? If there's a big thing that's feeding out to give something else power, why not give that to the people that we need, who are visible and who are also vulnerable at that level too, right? We have the people who are vulnerable in our own backyards and our own homes, but the people who are on the front lines of this speaking out also need that protection. But being careful, this is where we got to think, right? We need to be clear about this, is when we want to protect, when we protect in our own homes, in our own communities, that type of protection is almost a type of invisible invisibility, right? You do not see them. They are safe. They are protected. And then you have folks where we don't want to hide them. We want to be able to amplify them and protect them at the same time, which is exactly the kind of thing we're working against, right? So why not take a page from that book? Um, Perhaps I would be a good soccer coach. I don't know, like maybe I should be doing some sort of sports bar thing. How do we think of our offensive and our defensive, right? There are multiple ways of doing this. So I would challenge folks who are interested in doing magical work is to sit down and think, what is best for me to do? Can I focus my energy on the vulnerable people in my own home, in my own community, in my own city, in my own town, to do that kind of work? Can I be helping those folks, or is the kind of work that I need to be doing the machete, right? The clear the path out so that we can direct forward in that type of energy. So that is something to consider and take a look at. Sorry, there's so many of you. Hello from everywhere, everybody. Satori says, Eris and Discordia, right? There's in every system out there, there is inspiration. What I recommend in that inspiration is what connects with you. I'm going to highlight and see if I can show this here. I'm getting better at this. Sand, hello, Sand. For me, my dedication to Bridget and to Lou feels especially relevant around, can I spread Bridget's cloak to protect those who are most vulnerable? I love that. I really, really love that. The story that's been popping up, so Leslie Hudson was here with me this past week, and saw, because it's in bulk and such. Uh, Leslie had mentioned the story about Bridget's cloak, and then I saw someone else mention, because again, it's the timing, but the idea of, I'm just going to do the quick story for those who aren't familiar, of being able to, Bridget spreads her cloak, and the person that she's opposing says, you're not going to get very far with this, right? You are, yeah, go ahead. You think you're going to claim all the land that's around your cloak, and the cloak spreads so far, right? And so it's everything the light touches, right? Everything the cloak touches, right? We can do that type of, right? I think that's an inspiration. So definitely look into that myth, that story, because there's inspiration out of that. I mean, like, it might seem like you can only do a little bit, that you can only cover a little bit of territory, but the more that we put energy into, the more that we're working together, the more we are able to cover. So this type of energetic work, metaphysical work, magical work, it's about setting mindset. It's about bolstering the spirit. It's about protecting people, in addition to these physical things that we can be doing. So, I'm highlighting this to just say, hey, there are these books, but there are these ideas. But also, if you go through my modern traditional witch blog, there are plenty of ideas in there too. I've been talking about the hermit and the serpent. This is a hermit year. So what is the hermit about? The hermit's about introspection. The hermit is about seeking wisdom. It is about guiding others. It's about solidarity. It is supporting your community. Kind of the running joke that I've had about the hermit card is the hermit brings snacks. Right? Snacks are important. Food is important. Like, taking care of the physical needs of a community is resistance and resilience. So if you are not feeling particularly attuned to certain types of magical work, or going out physically protesting, if you have different anxieties about dealing with people, but you love to cook, like, there are ways. There's so many important tasks that can be brought into that. I'm going to highlight Nova's comment here about Bridget's stories often seen about the surreptitious or indirect rebellion. Yes. All right. I'm going to bring up Heather's comment about, do we have cookies on the introspective side? Yes. So, it doesn't look like one thing. All right. Resistance and resilience does not look like just one thing. It doesn't have to be, look at all the piles of blood and thorn and nails and lemons I've got in pins and such, like, ooh. Again, you can totally do that, but that's just one way of doing it. And if you're not following it up with engaging in your local community, in your online community, and having action that is effective, that feeds your soul and feeds the souls of others, that isn't fully resistance and resilience, because we need to take care of each other. We need to form coalitions or join coalitions. Google, this is one of my first times I was going to say is Google is your friend. There might be coalitions and organizations already in place that need your help, that need you to volunteer and to do that work, instead of being like, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. I see a lot of that where people are like, I'm going to go start a thing up. I'm like, is there something already happening? Because it takes a lot to get that momentum going. So if there's already a wheel in motion, please join that wheel. Garrett, I'm going to highlight your comment here. My struggle right now is trying my best not to be overwhelmed by it all. Yes, we're all there with you, Garrett, because this is not normal. This is not normal. It is not your typical kind of everything going on. It is very easy and very human to be overwhelmed. It's by design. It's by design. So what I suggest for every single person when you're feeling overwhelmed is take a moment to disengage. I'm not saying disengage fully. I'm saying unplug for a moment. I'm going to say go touch grass. See a cat, pet the cat. that right there is healing. Right. Take care of yourself and think about what are the things that you can touch cat, not grass. That is definitely that's gonna have to be a new shirt, right? To think about those important things that are central to you and central to your local community that you can have an effect on, even if it's just going out talking to your librarian. Librarians would love to work with you. I'll highlight a few more of these comments in here. Heather says sigils work too. I turned a friend into your book and she's dicking out. Thank you, Heather. Heather is awesome. All right. And there are so many sigils. And what I would recommend is check out like everything that I've done. Almost everything I've done is on my blog, and it's free. It's free for you. And you can get to these books that have some of them. Visual Alchemy's got some of them. But if you search sigil on a modern traditional witch, you're going to find a whole bunch of different things. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. If there's something that we've been using for 8 years or 6 years, etc., or just created in the last year, use that to tap into, because it's already creating the current. It has often, a lot of what you're seeing on my blog are co-created sigils. So we already have a community of people who've been focusing on the energy together. Why not join into that as well? Miss Raven has good on here, supportive action from the fringes and shadows. Yes, right? You don't have to expose yourself, especially if you are in those vulnerable communities. Please protect yourself. That's what I'm saying. Like, shields are up or shields are ready, but also you can still do work that is going to feed your soul in that way too. Sand here. There are many ways to some of us need to contribute actions that are not that work within our capabilities. Yes. I know people always talk about marches, and marches are they're happening right now. You might not be seeing them because of the media, but we do know that they're happening everywhere. But I understand that a lot of people are not physically capable or safe in order to do marches. Right. So there are other ways of doing resistance and resilience. Please keep that in mind. And also don't tell others, oh, you have to be marching, you're not doing it, right? Like, there are so many levels, and especially online, especially right now, right, with a lot of things being shadow banned, various networks and such, you're not going to see everything that everyone's doing, which is probably good. Right. And again, that's why it's important to go to those meetings, go to those book clubs, go to places where you can gather with like-minded people and be present and talk to folks where, it's important. Like, even at the author talk today, it was a room full of folks who are just like, yeah, right. And being able to acknowledge and see that other people are feeling the same way as you is is a healing process. It's so important to realize you are not alone. And that's part of why I'm doing this today is I want you all to know you are not alone. There are many folks out there who are not on board with what's going on. And I truly believe there are more of us than them, right? There are more of us. There are more of us who believe in an inclusive, diverse society. There are more of us who want to see everyone prosper. There are far more people who are kind and compassionate and care about not just themselves, but their whole of their community and the beautiful diversity that's in their community. That's what I believe, and I know it to be true because I have traveled around the United States. I've been to pretty much every state, and I've been to places where people are like, there not can't be a witch shop there. Guarantee, right? There are folks, right? And there are far more folks than you are seeing on the surface. So keep that in mind. I'm going to come back through to the thing. Wicked Witch here says, thanks for being a hub. Yeah. And I'm going to try to do this more often. Like I try to do this in the blogs, but you know, just like all of you, I've been doing the work I've been able to eke out at the same time dealing with all of this. Right. So I am not a super person. I'm still a human being. I'm still trying to live life. And it's acknowledging really hard. And there's been days where I have not done a whole lot of anything because of the mental state of things, emotional and physical. So again, even if you're like, as Garrett said, I'm really overwhelmed. Sit with that for a bit. Let's see. Stan says, don't become a liability to the movement there. Make sure letter write. Yes, letter writing. And there are a lot of templates out there. There is the resist bot that is still active. You might have used it in the 2016 to 2020 era. Resist bot is out there for you to contact your representatives. Check out your local sites of government as well. But there's a lot of information of contacting, calling, writing letters, being present in that way. And also it's you don't even have to talk on the phone. You can use email. You can write those letters. Nova has a good point here. It's more effective to lean into your actual talents as opposed to overexert yourself doing something you're not equipped for, right? Every single one of you has something that you excel at, that you are good at, and I guarantee it counts. It is like the reason you're able to do it, it has a role to play in this, right? So whether you're able to bring comfort, whether you are able to rally the troops, whether you're just going to, quietly writing your letters and making your phone calls and doing your thing, whatever it is that you excel at, do that. Right? Juliana. Hey, Juliana. Yeah, so Juliana has the original of the paintings. Very, very nice. Bridget as a champion of sovereignty. So that's it. Here we are in this time. Mel, just like a seed in the ground. Yes, right. And this is where are we at right now? At least here in New England, it's cold, but this is when seeds are, I believe the word is stratified. Somebody posted it. When you have, they have to be in the ground, it's cold and it's wet before they're going to blossom in the spring. So we're doing work like that too, right? We might not see immediate results for some of these things, but there are going to be results. It's stratification. Or not. Check out your city council meetings, right? A lot of them are Zoom access, so you can get in there today. Yes, solely. Library here, get a library card. Yes, right. There's a wonderful wealth of things at your local library, and you're probably a part of a system too. So Rhode Island, we're small enough that I can request a book from any library in the state of Rhode Island. It will come to my local library. Just get online and do it. When I lived in Seattle, it was true for all of the Seattle area libraries. It might not be true if you live in a bigger state, but you're still going to have a network of them. So again, you can access a lot of these things. Heather points about, people telling you not doing it right. I just want folks do the work, from wherever you're able to do it. It doesn't do much good to dwell on what's already happened. It's this thing that Thorn Coyle and I were talking about in Invoking the Star is we can go over, and it's really important to understand why things happened. But the fact is, you can't change the past. You can only be active in the present and adjust the future from here. So, I said the other day to folks, I have a lot of anger. Again, I say it's part of the grieving process, right? Um, where I want to tell folks to go who didn't vote or protest vote or voted for the other guy, right? And to be like, um, I honest, I'm dealing with the anger of that um, on a whole bunch of different levels. That makes me, also want to do the this is where I want to go. But the rational part of my brain and the community organizer part of my brain goes, if you recognize that you made an action that did not help, that you now regret, now is the time to act. Like, I'm not going to spend time beating you up over that because it's not going to change what we're dealing with. Being angry, telling people to fuck off, yes, very much feel that, but it's not going to change where we're at right now. So you can make action, you can make change happen right now. No time like the present to take responsibility, to start shifting how you are, to be more aware and to do work about it. So consider that. Wicked Witch here. Marches and protests are invigorating, cathartic, but there's real work outside the noise, right? Good point in there. Garrett, is my focus been writing gay romance as part of resistance? Yes, it's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Garrett. Yes, love is important. And that's the thing too, right? So people say, oh, times like this, it makes great art. And no artist wants to hear that. No artist wants to be like, oh, well, now is a great time. Like, I'd rather be making art in a perfectly happy environment where I knew that, none of my friends or family and lives are at stake, that, the government isn't going to collapse around me. Like, I would like to make art in that situation. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop making art. It does mean that I'm not going to let anybody take that away from me. And I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm going to continue making art as a reflection of society because art is what they come for, right? Art, and you see it again in history. So being present, sharing your voice, sharing your beliefs and your existence and who you are and what you believe in is vital right now. So don't hide that. Yes, quote from Thorn there, from Sam, love is the only law that matters, right? And as it's something I've said before, when it comes to love, love is fierce. Love is a feeling of our whole body. So as much as you can feel anger and devastation and despair with your whole self, you can feel love with your whole self. And it is not a love. It is a fierce, passionate thing that can also, right, be collected and focused in there as well. So you can think about, I'm aiming to the ankles with love, right? And it's what connects us. We need to be mindful of what we have more in common. This is great. Thank you, Juliana. Love reminds us what we fight for, not just against, right? I want that as full. That gives me chills over my whole body, that I am clearing the path to make sure that my friends' marriages are still continue to be valid and recognized, that my trans friends are able to live freely without fear, that that immigrants can be welcome in our community and continue to thrive in their businesses. It's just the list. We know the list is so long, but every single one of those things that I love and I believe in, that we know is a better way of life, that is truly who we are and where the best of humanity goes to when we are able to share that space together and honor each other, and keep that fire, that kind of fire alive and that spirit, because we are not afraid. We are not afraid of being our most true, authentic, amazing selves. That this world is going to continue to get more more queer and more brown, more diverse, um, just more creative, and more outstanding in what we can bring to the table. Um, yes, fighting for love. Right. So that is another way of overcoming being overwhelmed, is think, what is more important? What is important to me right now? And the idea of writing down one, two, or three things that give you hope, that give you joy, that you are fiercely proud of, that you want to see flourish regardless of anything else there in the world. And use that as a touchstone, use that as a token, use that as a thing that you keep on your altar as a reminder of what's important. Because yes, we can list all the things that we all like. I want all of this. I want all of this. But we, yes, Heather, commit the sin of empathy, right? To such a good thing, right? We know, right? The coming to that quote there. Uh, we know what sanity is. We know what the best of society is. We know how beautiful and powerful that can be. And that's why they are afraid. They are not coming from a place of love. They are not coming from a place of honesty. They are not coming from a place of compassion or kindness. And I think that we can take love, compassion, kindness, intellect, our understanding of history, gather that together and weave that into the ropes that haul us into the future, that clear the path, right? That people can be amazing and beautiful and love each other and be vulnerable in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there shouldn't be. So that's the idea of something to hold on to. So think about that. Think about those one, two, three things that you love, that you want to protect and highlight and see thrive, and make that touchstone that keeps you going. And think about, how can you protect that? Whether it is writing your romance, whether that is going out and volunteering with a local community, whether that is writing to representatives or calling them, right? That's where it is. We lead by example and change by that, because just as much you can make hate a visible action, you can make love a visible action, right? I'm going to highlight this one here. Ancient says how to use visualization and raising energy and magical resistance. So visualization can be a bit of a difficult thing because some folks have aphantasia, right? So you can have a sigil that does it, so something that you can look at that represents those things. It can be a board, a vision board, because some people have, you need a collage to put those things together. It can be something that you collectively work as a group and say, this is what we are creating. This is what we speak into the world. This is what we paint. This is what we play into the world, right? And that can be through our bodies. We are embodied beings, right? So using our voices, using song, using our bodies, through dance can do that as well. Using our breath work, right? So getting our bodies physically involved takes up space, and it creates and focuses energy. So that's one way to do it as well. So hopefully it gives you a few ideas, right? But I know a lot of this makes for, it's designed to make you feel despair and crazy, and you're not. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with believing in love and diversity, inclusivity, prosperity for all of those things. So All right. I've been going on for about 44 minutes, and there's 44 of you at 444, 44. Right. Perhaps that's a magic number, right? 4 is the number of the emperor. It's of balance and foundation. So you can take inspiration from that too. Oh, another idea on that, since I mentioned the emperor, is you can use tarot cards or oracle cards as a reference to pull the energy in as well. So if you need something that represents what you'd like, put it there, put it at your altar, put it at that place when you're making those phone calls to look at that. Uh, and see, not just see it as a figure that you're looking at or an archetype, but how can you be the figure in the card as well? To be the empress, right? The creatrix of abundance and sovereignty. How can I be the emperor where I'm guiding through foundation and kindness and a firm hand, right? How can it be the Hierophant, where I was, these are the spiritual traditions that we need to bring together? And then what are the ones that we need to let go of? Like all of these things can be inspiration. Good point in there, Heather. We are not crazy there, crazy making. Yes. I'm glad, and Stan, I'm glad you were able to catch it too, right? Together. And Garrett, rise like the phoenix, right? We have, again, we return to mythology. We return to these stories again and again in all these different cultures that speak to the human spirit, that we can do better, that even, yes, humans do terrible things, but humans can do wonderful, great things as well. And I believe in our capacity for that. I believe we can accomplish great things. I believe that together, every single one of you can help create a better world. And I still believe in that world. So, oh, good. Good. Thank you, Sarah. Right. Thank you, Juliana, for being here too. So keep in mind, keep an eye out for things that are on the blog. I'm going to try to do regular updates. Oh, Sand making posts in here too. I feel like they're gaslighting us. They want to leave. Yes. Wait, it can be the right part, right? It's like, you want me to be conservative and covered up and sane and as whitewashed as possible, then I'm going to be extra me. Right? I want you all to be extra you, as well as safely as you can be as well, depending on your situation, right? So again, being yourself is an act of revolution in there too. Good, thank you. Hey, Meredith in there. So I say I'm going to keep posting things on the on my blog, wearearadia.org. I'm going to try to get things up there on a regular basis too. I started right after the election and just through the holidays and such. I'm going to continue posting resources there. And there's going to be other coalition building that we'll be doing online. So keep an eye out in those spaces. If you're on my Patreon, we have a resistance and resilience Discord channel in that group as well. So please keep in touch with each other, whatever social media network that you're doing. But don't forget to touch base with the people who are around you and that you can. And again, even if you feel like you're isolated in your area, do what you can to reach out to others that have that common. Again, there are more of us. I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to think about Bridget's cloak, that you might seem like it's only going to cover this much, but we are going to cover the whole land with this. So thank you all for joining with me today. I'm sorry to see if I'll do another check-in. Maybe I can do this weekly. We'll see. I've got kind of, next weekend is Mythicon, but I'll try to check in when I can, maybe like twice a month, and be kind to each other. When you feel overwhelmed, take a breath. Remember, what is your touchstone? What are you fighting for? Who are you fighting for? Not just yourself, but for all of us together. We're witches. These are the times we were made for, whether we like that or not. We're here to accomplish this work, and we are going to do it. So thank you all. I'll see you online. I'll see you next time. Take care. Be strong. You've got this. We've got this together.